Everybody, welcome back to another edition of Ohio podcast that we have recently started up to help get the word out in the Ohio area about some amazing things that are happening in the marketplace and in the medical fields as well. Today we have Brian and Josh, and then my name is also Josh. The two Joshes are with Southern Ohio Botanicals, and then Brian, who are you with, brother? I know you're. Quite the professional out on the West Coast that's popping in on us today. So give us a little rundown about yourself and your company.
Great. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. I am Brian Kessler. I run SBL Venture Capital. We do energy, transportation, health, well-being, consumer goods, and entertainment. About 12 years ago now, cannabis hit my radar. I'm primarily an inventor. I've invented 2,500 products and brought them to market over the last 30 years. I've worked in consumer goods in 60 countries around the world, distributing products through about 100,000 retail outlets for many, many years. Regulated, tested consumer goods. So 12 years ago, cannabis hit our radar, and we realized here was an industry that was manufacturing illegally produced product that could hurt people. It could have pesticides, insecticides, who knows what was being in it if it was grown illegally, let alone the fact whether it could be laced. And the fact that it was distributed illegally even encouraged the risk of whether or not the product that consumers were buying was going to hurt them. So with my background, I thought, here's an industry that I think I really can bring some interesting perspective to, and hopefully some skill sets that can help evolve it. I've actually been active in 20 plus states with cannabis, both on medical and adult use. We have touched everything from owning grows, processors, stores, picks and shovels. We were the initial investor group on High Times magazine when they were acquired. But in Ohio, my nephew and I, 7.5 years ago, started this endeavor where I realized a lot of the IP that I was developing, I could put into place in Ohio if Ohio would ever get to a point where it would allow cannabis to be consumed legally. And I've literally been involved with the state on many levels early on, helping figure out how to get something legalized in the state. Then having the opportunity to participate in medical marijuana. Riviera Creek, which is our company, was granted one of the master licenses in the state. And it gave Daniel and I this opportunity to do some things that have never been done before. So, for example, I've been developing aeroponics for almost 12 years. And I was one of the original investors in the space, worked with a couple of different companies on developing technology. And when we built Riviera, we introduced aeroponic growing to Ohio and kind of to the country. There wasn't much of it being done when we launched our company. And
maybe give us a quick sentence of what that is for those of
sure,
us that don't know.
sure. Most marijuana is grown in dirt. That's a plant that's grown in soil. So over time, dirt turned into substrates, which are like little pieces of coal or brick or some little things that are good nutrient feeders for the roots to grow in. Then people started playing around with hydroponics, so growing plants in water. Airponics is really kind of what we see when we look at people sending rockets into outer space and them growing food in space, where literally the roots are suspended in air. So our airponic growing is literally where the roots are in air and we feed them direct nutrients without anything hitting them. But as I always say, air, light, nutrients, and water are all that touch our plants. And gave us a really interesting platform to play with. It's been fascinating. Last 6 years, we've been involved with the medical market in Ohio. And, we have a brand called Standby, which is one of the best selling products in the state. And the interesting thing about aeroponics is the control and the ability for us to interact with the plant being very different than other methodologies has allowed us to deliver a consistency of product that has not been seen. So with us being involved with High Times, we also own the Cannabis Cup. So I've also had the opportunity to see award-winning products around the country. And though they've never done anything in Ohio, and I'm not sure how I would even interact with that since I'm one of the owners of the company, we know that the quality that we're putting out on some of our brands has been really top-notch. So very cool, very interesting. So that's kind of my background.
Well, I mean, obviously, we are honored to have you on here to kind of share some wisdom. So, we want to encourage people to get out and vote on Tuesday, because this gives you a snapshot into the world that's going on in Ohio right now. We have some incredibly gifted and competent people that have been able to research, develop, and create processes to be able to maintain a state of consistency, and taking out all of the, I guess, the question marks when it comes to the marketplace, especially in the cannabis marketplace, because we've seen it in a lot of areas where people that do it illegally run the risk of having all types of problems. And then so we're trying to encourage folks to understand that this is not a taboo subject to have. This is quite normal conversation in most parts of the world, even in around America. But we want people to understand that this is a very well thought out, very heavily regulated industry that could be even easier for people and consumers to access if we get out and vote on Tuesday. And so, Josh, do you want to speak to that a little bit about what's coming up on Tuesday, and the ways that people can understand how it's going to change if it does the legislation? I think it's called Issue 2, correct?
Issue 2
that comes out on Tuesday.
Yeah. So, I mean, Issue 2 is going to help move us into what they call adult use in Ohio. Adult use, I'm sorry, and it's basically the rec market. So it's going to make marijuana available like alcohol. And I know there's a bunch of different conflicts of opinions and good and bad with that. But as I've said so many times, I just see so many barriers. It takes the healthcare aspect out of it, the way it currently is. So there's all kinds of things that are in the bill that bring controversy. Just earlier today, I had someone that was asking about gun rights, but I look at it, these are just little baby steps, and we got to keep moving forward. So this is why it needs to happen, because it's going to make it better for us to be able to put these regulations and have companies like Riviera Creek that has, I can speak personally to the product myself because I am a user also. So, and they have some of the top notch, but you can see with a caliber of person, these are the caliber of people that we are working with across the board. And
I think it's important also for people to understand that are tuning in for the first time or seeing this on social media, your background. Tell us a quick snapshot of how you even became aware of this industry, specifically in Ohio. I know with your background, you can speak to it a lot more than Brian and I can, because you're a lot smarter, I think, because anybody that can get through
I don't know if I'm smart. I mean, I don't know about that, but there's a lot of smart guys on this. You two are very intelligent. We're all just different in how we. But I went to pharmacy school, graduated from the Ohio State University in 2002. Yeah, that's the proper way to say it. And ever since then, as you were in one of the bands that I did production for, and that's how we met. So I was a very religious preacher, evangelist, and come from a very strict, called it the devil's lettuce, And in 2015, I went through a bad accident, had a bout with Dilaudid, used medical marijuana, or marijuana at the time to get off of it, just because medical was coming. The program hadn't, it was in its inception, but I knew I had a problem. And I knew I had to do something, because what my biggest drug is I crave success and happiness. So I was not happy and I wanted out. And this was the way out. It was the best way out that I found.
Right. And so I think a lot of people kind of have that misconception that, for some reason prescription drugs are okay and marijuana is highly addictive and will ruin your life, right? And so and I'm not even someone that's ever even used marijuana because my body is a temple. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I come from a very religious background as well, where it was always very much kind of looked down upon. And as technology has come out and research and new applications and regulations and things like that, a lot of people are really understanding. Hey, we've been fed a narrative that has not actually been that true, and in most cases been outright lies, especially when it comes to pharmaceutical products and the natural
Yes.
path, and then also the chemicals that are involved, right? And with the processing of it. So, what really kind of awakened me a little bit was I have a family member that's going through early onset dementia and Alzheimer's and having some struggles with that. And they're at, one of the most prestigious universities in North Carolina. And they were actually talking about a prescription for medical use to help with some of the symptoms that he was having. And I was like, wow, I mean, it's, it's being talked about in circles that in most cases have been like, whoa, that's not even possible. But people need to understand if it's regulated and there's a process involved, and if you go into a pharmacy and order a prescription of some type of drug, it can be highly addictive and it can really have some intense side effects. But just because there's an FDA stamp on it, does that necessarily mean it's the best option? Obviously, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. We're not doctors here, and we're not prescribing anything. But I'm just saying there's a chance that people need to be doing more research, and it's really encouraging to see the state of Ohio taking these steps to really kind of open people's eyes up to this marketplace. And so,
So if
Brian,
I
you want to
can,
speak to that a little bit? Yeah.
yeah, if I can jump in a little bit, guys. So, because like I said, I've been in the industry now for a long time, and I have worked with numerous companies and governments and people around the country and around the world these days about cannabis. And first and foremost, so I think I'm a little older than you guys. I'm 65, and in my lifetime, marijuana has been around since I was a kid. At the beginning, it was the 60s, and then, it was around during that era. Then in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there was moments where they tried to eradicate it and tried to get rid of it. It was, like you say, the devil's weed. Um, and it never went away. It has always been consumed for my whole life about as much as Budweiser beer on an annualized basis. And so that's what hit me. It's like, okay, wait a second. If people are going to consume it, because there's really been two areas that have been unbelievably beneficial. One has been medicinal. And as you said, right now, there is no FDA testing. So we don't have any clear, there's one drug that's been passed, in Europe that has gotten to a medical level. But for the majority, we're in the medicinal world. And in that world, there are so many anecdotal stories that people talk about where cannabis has helped them for cancer patients, for Alzheimer patients, for PTSD, for eating disorders, sleeping disorders. That truly, from the medicinal side, there are ways that people are finding benefits from cannabis that are things that we need to find ways to let them have access. That being said, like in Ohio, for example, we have 180,000 patients, I think, right now that are on our medical program in Ohio that have signed up for it. But 20% of Americans use cannabis on a daily basis. And that means in Ohio, about 1.5 to 2 million people of the state used cannabis last year and are using it today. And that means of the 180,000 that have the card that are consuming it legally, what is that, 1.3 to 1.7 or 8 million people are buying it in another way. And right now, there's only three ways to buy marijuana in adult use if you don't have a medicinal license. And that is street product, which I had the sample that I was carrying around that we bought that was Delta 8 that came in a brown bag that when you pour it in your hand, That was Delta 8. So that's the second way you can buy it, which is through stores. But the street product is even more dangerous than that because you have no idea what you're getting.
Right.
Delta 8, which is the second way you can get cannabis as an adult in Ohio, is sold in stores that are smoke shops all over the state. Again, not tested, not regulated. You don't know what you're buying, available to anyone that walks through that door. So, so that has all kinds of problems with it. The third issue is the last one, which they're able to get their hands on regulated tested product by going to another state. So a lot of them are driving to Michigan. And I mean, listen, Ohio State's on TV right now, and I don't think we want Ohio State and Michigan with the way we compete. So all of our money going to the Michigan state to benefit them. So, and when they buy that tested regulated product, as soon as they drive across the state line, they've violated a federal law. So right now, if a person that regularly consumes marijuana wants to get their hands on it, their choices are terrible, and they could have personal consequences to them that can affect them for the rest of their life. If they get stopped with it, they can get up by the police. They can get in trouble with it. If they consume something that can hurt them, it can hurt them for the rest of their lives. So going to a situation with adult use, which is what's on the ballot on Tuesday, and I've been out reporting in a big way, allows people to then be able in the state buy safe, regulated, tested product that they would be consuming otherwise. And why not give them the opportunity to interact with a product that won't hurt them, that now has a tax revenue on it that's generated for the state, so the people of the state benefit by it, and wind up being able to interact in a way that they don't have to feel that they're going to ruin their lives by interacting with a product that is consumed regularly in the state. Now, so the opposition has said, okay, well, what do you guys, isn't it going to hurt the people on the job? And I have this great story because I've been working with companies and owning companies in Ohio for many, many years, for almost 40 plus years. My family's been in business there for close to 100 years. And at one point in time, we had a group of our employees that approached management and said, we want to put a beer dispensing machine on the floor of the factory. And we're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And the point is, you can't be at work high on alcohol, and you can't come to work high on marijuana. So right now the state's been saying, oh, but it's going to affect, people coming to work under the influence. And my response is, guys, right now those people are already consuming the product. In every other state I've worked in, when it goes to adult use, you don't see any change. It's not like it becomes reefer madness and like marijuana is everywhere. There is no change in society. You don't see it on the street. You don't see it in your home. You don't see it out in public. What really happens is those people that were buying dangerous, unsafe product are now buying safe, tested product. As far as the workspace, if somebody comes into your place high or drunk, they can't work. They have to go home. So you send them home. And that is really what has happened in every situation I've seen everywhere else. So I don't worry about the employment aspect. I don't worry about the social aspect. What I do worry about is Ohioans who are running risks that they don't have to run. And by having an adult use on issue 2 to vote yes for it on Tuesday will allow them to be able to consume a safe, regulated, tested product, which is what I hope they get to.
Bravo. I could not have made a better case than Brian. So I salute you, sir. And I think that is a great way to kind of wrap this up, because I know folks, they have questions, they have concerns, but hopefully they've been able to grasp a lot of nuggets out of this, pardon the pun, I guess you'd say, for us to be able to kind of help clear the air. Another one, by the way. And so we want people to understand that this is a very serious issue, and it can bring a lot of additional support and hope to the community that has in a lot of ways been kind of dragged down by other factors. And so let's make this thing legal.
I have one more small point to add, because it was another issue that a lot of people brought up, which is illegal drugs are still going to be sold on the streets.
Yeah.
And in California, they always said the market before it went legalized and controlled was about a $5 to $6 billion market. And most of that product at that time was being sold either in the gray market or illegally. Today, last year, I think it was, California's sales on legal sales of marijuana are about $5 billion. So at most, there's about $1 billion left that's still illegal, but 90%, 80% or more of the product now is sold legally. And so one would assume and hope that a very similar thing would happen in Ohio. I'm not saying that illegal distribution goes away. I don't know how you stop that, but I can say it's going to get dramatically minimized because people now can go into a store, show that they're 21, buy something safe, and not have to worry about it. So just wanted to make sure that last point gets brought up too.
Absolutely. That's a huge point. I obviously, I'm grateful to have all that information. Brian, you're a true testament to the industry, and you've been a big ally for not only the industry nationally, but even internationally. So we appreciate your time
Thank you, Brian.
jumping on the podcast here. And I'm just going to encourage everyone. Josh, you want to say any parting words here? We got about 2 minutes.
I think that Brian said it all. I don't think that I want to add any more to that other than amen. You know what I mean, bro?
Vote yes on issue 2.
Vote yes on issue 2, and again, this
Tuesday.
Tuesday, Ohio. Let's make it count, and then we'll go from there. Again, this is the 2 Joshes signing off from Southern Ohio Botanicals in Waverly, Ohio, and we will chat with you next time. Take care, guys.